So this prompt injection is a red team activity. You're trying to break into a system that someone has attempted to defend. The next one is a blue team activity. This is using large language models to actually do something productive. So here, if you know Python coding, you can solve challenges, you can write Python code to do things. But these days, the cool way to write Python code is to get a machine learning system to write the code for you. This is extremely useful. And Bard has recently updated, just in the last few weeks, to supposedly be much better at writing code and running the code for you. So, you can give it a prompt like write Python code to count from 1 to 10 and run it. If you do that, Bard will write the code. It will then tell you what it should do, and you can actually upload it to, here's what the output of the code is. One thing to be aware of, which is very nasty, when it tells you this is the output of the code, it might be lying, and you'll see that it is lying. It doesn't actually produce this output by testing the code. It's instead just trying to say words that will look good. However, they've added a feature to share and export this code. You can export this code to Colab, which is a free environment that Google gives you to run your code in. And in Google Colab, you can actually run the code with a run button. And then you can see what it really does. Now in this case, for I in range 1, 11 print I does in fact count from 1 to 10 correctly. So a job that simple, it can do. So that's comforting. I'm going to leave this site and go back here. But if you try something a little more complicated, like this one, I want to write Python code to generate the first 10 prime numbers. Include only every other result, multiply the remaining numbers together, and so on. So I want to get every other prime number multiplied together. Let's see how well it can do that. Okay, it writes some code. It has a function called isPrime that will tell you if a number is prime, and it does it by trying every number from 2 up to the square root of the number to see if it's a divisor. So that looks pretty good. Here it's going to go from range 2 to 21 looking for prime numbers, and here it's going to count every other one. So here it tells me that here's the first 10 prime numbers, and that's correct, and here's every other member of that list, and that's correct. So the demonstration text here looks right. But if you run the actual code, there's a mistake, and you might already have noticed it. It's only looking from 2 to 21 for prime numbers. So if you run this code, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It only found 8 numbers, not 10. So as I warned you, even though down here it puts what looks like the right answer, that is not what the code will produce. And this is unfortunately commonly the case. Now when I first did this, I would fix the code myself. But what students have found is you can fix the code by asking Bard to fix the code. That code does not work properly. It only finds the first 8 numbers. Fix the code and show it to me. Let's see if it can do that. And this is increasingly the way of the future. You can write code by just being like a manager, where you refuse to actually do any of the coding yourself. Instead, you just supervise and tell it when it's wrong. So here we go again. And it looks to me like it got even worse. Now it's only going to go from 2 to 11. I highly doubt that's going to work. And look, now it thinks the first 10 prime numbers, there's only 7 here. So it's getting worse. The demonstration is worse. And I bet the code is worse. So my attempt to tell it to fix it did not produce any real fix. Not at all. Now it's only finding 4 prime numbers. So you'd have to give it more of an argument. Probably echoing back the bad code would help. So this is the code that failed. And so if I go here, the code and run it. See what this does. All right, I give it back the code. I tell it what's wrong with it. Let's see if it can learn to do better. All right. And it looks like it stubbornly continues not to find the first 10 prime numbers, but to only find prime numbers up to 10. So I'm not having much luck. The only change I made, this ensures that it only finds the first 10 prime numbers. That is absolutely not true. And this code is not right, and it also doesn't match the description above, so I'm not getting much luck tricking Bard into doing a good job at this task, but you probably could learn to argue it into it. One thing that I find works better, there are some challenges here for primes. Now if you go here, there are some old coding challenges I wrote to just teach people Python, and I found that it's really quite good at solving these. Let's take a look at one of these. So here is a challenge. Connect to this server, send it the string goodbye. It can do this pretty well. Here the code tells you how to make a connection to a server on a port and send data to it, but Bard can figure that out. So let me start a new chat to get rid of all that old stuff about prime numbers. This one will probably work. Or to be fair, it will do like here, it creates the socket, it connects and sends it goodbye. Now, there's a problem here, but it's not really a problem with Google Colab or Google Bard. If you go here, here's the code, and when you run the code, okay, what happens with this code is when you first connect, it replies with a prompt, hello, what have you to say? Then you're supposed to send goodbye. Then you're supposed to get a flag. So I didn't tell it to connect, then repeat a prompt that came from the server, then send goodbye, and then print the response from the server. My instructions weren't clear enough. So I can do a better job by just improving my instructions. So here, this is the instructions I had last time. So connect to the server, then print, whoops, I hit, all right, I can't stop it. I pressed enter and that ran it, so I'm going to just prepare the next one here with shift enter so it doesn't run it right away. Then print the reply from the server. There. And I don't really need to have punctuation and spelling correct, but I'm going to print the reply from the server, send it the string goodbye, then print the reply from the server again. This might work. Now I notice I forgot to tell it to write Python code, but it decided to write Python code anyway, which is nice. So now it connects, prints what comes back, sends goodbye, and prints what comes back. This looks pretty good. Let's send that to the Colab and run it. And now you get a flag. So you can solve these problems without actually writing any Python. You can get Bard to write the Python, so you might try that out. That's the other side. That's using it to accomplish a productive job.